Hi, welcome to Mac to Explore Systems. In this video, we are going to show you how to set up a Raspberry Pi in headless mode. This means you will learn how to access Raspberry Pi's desktop without needing a monitor. Here, we will be using NoMachine Remote Desktop Software. For that, first we will install NoMachine server on Raspberry Pi, and then we will access it over Wi-Fi using the NoMachine client on laptop or desktop. So let's get started. Let's first prepare the Raspberry Pi. For that, first we have to download the Raspberry Pi OS, and we will use Raspberry Pi Imager software to flash the Raspberry Pi image onto it. So we have already downloaded this software. Let me show you. So for our Windows operating system, we have installed this Raspberry Pi Imager, and you also need SD card formatter software. So we are using 16 GB of SD card. We will first format the SD card. For that, we will use this SD card formatter software. You will get link to download this SD card formatter software in the description of this video. Here, you should select correct drive and format the SD card. Please select correct drive. Otherwise, if you select wrong drive, your data on that wrongly selected drive will get lost. So this is optional step, formatting SD card, because Raspberry Pi Imager also format the SD card before flashing the OS onto it. So SD card has been formatted. Now let's choose the device, Raspberry Pi device, which we are going to use. So we are going to use Raspberry Pi 4 model B. So this one. So we are going to select that. Then next step is choose the operating system. So let's click on that, and here we are going to use 64-bit operating system, latest version. So Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit. Let's click on that. Then OS is selected. Then next option is to choose the storage. So we have already formatted our SD card. Let's select it. Then click on next. The next option is OS customization settings. Let's edit those settings. So in OS customization setting, you can set your host name, username and password for your Raspberry Pi. Then the wireless LAN, that is Wi-Fi settings, SSID and password, you can set it here. Then next is your time zone settings, you can save them. Then next is if you want to enable the SSH, you can tick here to enable the SSH. These are all options. Once you set all these options, you can click on save button to save those all options. And next is to apply the OS customization settings, click on yes, and then it will again ask you if you want to format the SD card. Click on yes, and then the flashing process will get start, and once it get completed, your OS will be flashed onto the SD card, and you can use that SD card, put it into your Raspberry Pi and connect display monitor to RPi via HDMI cable. Then connect other accessories like keyboard, mouse, and then turn on Raspberry Pi by powering it. So this method is with monitor screen. In this video, we are going to use headless mode of RPi. That is, we are not going to use monitor display screen. Instead, we will install NoMachine Remote Desktop Software. So if you have a monitor with you, that is, if you have display screen with you, then you can skip this step of installing NoMachine software, and you can go ahead with the installation of Mediapipe framework. So in next session, we are going to see installation of NoMachine on Raspberry Pi. And if you don't have display and want to use the Raspberry Pi as a headless, then you can just follow along. Okay, so you can see the Raspberry Pi OS has been successfully flashed onto SD card. Now we will safely remove the SD card and put it into Raspberry Pi and then power on the Raspberry Pi. Okay, now let's connect our Raspberry Pi in headless mode, that is without monitor screen. Please note, if you have display monitor and connected to your Raspberry Pi, then you can skip this step. This step is for headless mode, but if you have monitor, then you can skip this step and go to this timestamp. Okay, so now we are on our Wi-Fi router's configuration page. We need to find out IP address of our Raspberry Pi. So it will be required for remotely login over Wi-Fi with SSH into your Raspberry Pi. So therefore, let's first log in into router and find out IP address of our Raspberry Pi. So here in a router settings, we have to go to DHCP client list. Here once the Raspberry Pi is connected or is get connected to the wireless router, we will see its IP address here like this. Now this is the IP address of our Raspberry Pi. Please note, your IP may be different and it will be according to your router's DHCP configuration. Okay, so let's copy this IP address and we will use serial terminal software like PuTTY to remotely log in into our Raspberry Pi using SSH. Then on next window, it will show security warning about SSH key. Just accept it and go ahead. You will then get login console of Raspberry Pi. Here enter the username and password you set during OS customization settings while we flashing the OS onto the SD card using RPi imager software. Then let me just increase the font of this serial console and we will log in with correct username and password. Okay, now we are logged into Raspberry Pi. Let's update and upgrade the system. This command of update and upgrade will take some time. I will fast forward the video. Before going forward, let me show you the hardware and software details. So we are using Raspberry Pi 4 model B 2 GB variant board. Then as we have seen that we have flashed a Raspberry Pi 64-bit operating system. It's a Debian based Linux version 12 called as Bookworm. Then let me show you the architecture, hardware architecture, and you can see it's a 64-bit system. Okay, now let's see the RAM, memory and default swap space details. For that, let's run htop command. So you can see here this board we are using has 2 GBs of RAM and default swap space is 512 MB, 512 MBs. Alright, so this was all about hardware and software details of Raspberry Pi. Now let's see the installation of NoMachine Remote Desktop Software. For that, you have to go to this web URL, which is website of NoMachine. Here on this homepage of NoMachine website, go to downloads and select option of NoMachine for Raspberry Pi. Click on it, new page will get open. Here you will find suitable packages for different Raspberry Pi hardware variants like from Pi 2 to Pi 5. Please select according to your device and installed OS. So as we are using 64-bit OS and Debian based Linux, we will download .deb package. So we'll copy the link of .deb package. Then we will go to PuTTY terminal, we'll use wget command and then paste it link and download the .deb package. So once it got downloaded, you can install it. They have also given command to install it. You can refer that dpkg command. Let's use that and install according to it. Once the NoMachine software got installed, you will see NoMachine server is running on specific port. So for example, you can see the NoMachine service is running here on port 4000. Okay, this was about installation of NoMachine server on RPi. But to access our Raspberry Pi remotely, we need NoMachine client software on our PC or laptop. So you can download and install NoMachine client software from here, the website of NoMachine. You can install according to your host OS, like you have Linux, Mac OS or Windows. So in our case, we have already installed on our Windows machine. Let me show you. So this is a NoMachine client software running on Windows 11 system. Its user interface UI will look something like this, and if you did everything correctly in previous steps, you will see your Raspberry Pi got listed here like this in machine section. Now to connect to a Raspberry Pi and access its desktop remotely, we have to double click on this machine. But before that, let me tell you very important thing. During our experimentation, we found out that Wayland display protocol does not work with NoMachine. Let me explain you this further. First, let's reproduce that error to show you. Let's try login via NoMachine with Wayland display server protocol enabled. And you can see this was the error occurred. Now let me explain you about this Wayland display server protocol in brief and how we can avoid this error by switching back to legacy X11 display server protocol. On a Raspberry Pi, Wayland is a display server protocol that manages the display of graphical output. It is a more modern alternative to the traditional X11 display server on Linux system like Raspberry Pi OS. So typically in older OS of Raspberry Pi, X11 was used as display server protocol, but in a recent and latest versions of Raspberry Pi operating systems, they have added support for Wayland. Here Wayland handles how graphical applications display on screen, but due to some issues or bugs for NoMachine, Wayland display server protocol was not working during our experimentation. Hence, we decided to switch back to X11 to check that if it works with NoMachine or not, and surprisingly it worked. So we switched back to legacy X11 display server via Raspberry Pi config settings. Let me show you. Let's run raspi config command in terminal with sudo privileges. In config menu, go to advanced options. There you will see Wayland. It says switch between X server and Wayland backends. Select that option. To go further, you have to press enter. On next window, select X11 open box window manager with X11 backend. Press enter. On next screen, you will see prompt showing that X11 is active. Now next step is to restart the Raspberry Pi, which will be asked on next windows. Just follow along and restart your Raspberry Pi. Now as we switched back to X11 display server protocol on our Raspberry Pi, you can now try to access Raspberry Pi's desktop remotely using NoMachine. Here set a display resolution as per your choice. and you can see we are now accessing Raspberry Pi desktop successfully. So in this way you can install NoMachine Remote Desktop Software and set up NoMachine NX server on Raspberry Pi. In our upcoming videos, we will use this setup for creating machine vision and other projects for Raspberry Pi. Stay tuned for more projects and tech updates. If you face any difficulty in replicating our DIY projects, feel free to ping us on Telegram or WhatsApp. You can also send us email at info@mac2explore.com. We would be happy to help. Thank you.